So after a couple of chaotic days in Naples, I left behind the roaring mopeds and graffiti-ridden alleyways for the Almafi Coast. Now Naples was a cool town, but I was looking forward to seeing a little bit of what Italy's countryside has to offer. Wanted to get in some nature and hiking as well. Now the Almafi Coast is a 50-kilometer stretch of coastline on the southern edge of the Sorrento Peninsula. It's one of Italy's most famous destinations, with colorful fishing villages, mountainous vistas, and all these cool little hikes and villages along the coast. My first destination was the small town of Sorrento. It faces the Bay of Naples and has a cool little waterfront down a cliff, which can be accessed via steep stairways and a subterranean elevator. Now Sorrento is pretty overwhelmed with tour groups. It's typically more of an upscale destination, not really my kind of place for adventure, but hey, I mean there could be worse things in life than being stuck in Sorrento. Had some great dinner that night, swordfish, and some other stuff, which so far Italy has not been the best place for food, in my opinion. I know that's shocking, probably caused a whole bunch of hysteria on the internet. But yeah, having said that, in like 30 countries of travels, more than 30, Italy probably had the worst food. That's my opinion. I'm not too big on Italian, but I do love Italian back home here in New Orleans, but it's got season and stuff like that. I just didn't find that in Italy. So a number of nights, I actually stopped at a grocery store, bought some salami, some bread, made my own stuff, which was better than some of the meals I had. So later that night, I headed back up to my hotel. Now I booked this place that kind of sat up over the hill, had a good view of the city. That was of course very cool when I booked it, very cool when I was up there. Not so much on the hike back to my room. So I had roughly about a 30-minute hike up the mountain. That included getting lost in a couple back alleys. So the Path of the Gods is said to be one of the most beautiful hikes in all of Italy. Now when I found out when I was coming to the country for business, I kind of scavenged the guidebooks to find some kind of natural hike or outdoor, some cool little adventure that was relatively close to Rome given the limited amount of time I had here. So when the Path of the Gods popped up, it looked like the perfect place. Lonely Planet calls it one of the most beautiful hikes in the country. So the most popular portion of the Path of the Gods runs from the village of Bomerano to the coastal town of Positano. Now this trail was used by early Greek settlers as early as 8th century BC. It skirts the Almafi Coast, running through cloud forest. It passes through a series of descents and narrow rocky paths. Now the trail is about 4.5 to 5 miles. While it may not be the easiest trail due to the climbs, it's far from being exceptionally difficult for any reasonably fit person. So I go to hike the Path of the Gods, what is said to be one of the most beautiful hikes in all of Italy. Supposedly has this beautiful trail along the mountains, views of the sea, through rural Italy and some charming, tranquil villages. What do I see when I get there? Hundreds, literally hundreds of freaking people on the trail. Crowds, people getting injured. Is this really Italy's most beautiful hike? Now, I'm not antisocial. I like a few people around. In fact, I enjoy hiking with people. But when I'm headed into nature, do I really want to be with a gigantic crowd of tourists? Or a gigantic crowd of anyone at that point? At the first couple vistas, there were so many people in it that it was actually dangerous. There was a risk of getting pushed off the cliff. I even came across a lady who injured her leg and was being carried out. She had another 2 miles to get carried off the trail. I offered to help, but they said they were good. Thankfully, I'm glad they didn't want my help because I was just doing whatever I could to escape people. I didn't even fly my drone because it just got too crowded. I barely got a moment alone. Are there many people going down this way? No? Good. Then that's where we're going. So I managed to find a few detours that took me to some pretty tranquil places. I mean, don't get me wrong, Path of the Gods was a beautiful trail. I highly recommend it, But that's part of the problem. Maybe there's just too many people on it. So I eventually came into the small town of Nocelle. It kind of sits up in the mountains over Positano. Overlooks the Mediterranean. Beautiful little town. So when you're making your way through there, you're kind of going through all these little back alleys. You're walking right past people's doors, their backyards. So it's got a real authentic feel to it. But eventually you make your way down the steps. There are 1,000 steps down to Positano. It is quite a walk. Of course, it's quite easy going down. Positano is very nice, packed with tourists. Definitely a place to stick around for a while, but I had to get on the ferry back to Sorrento. So Path of Gods, yeah, I'd recommend it. It's not the most adventurous thing compared to many of the things that I do, but it was definitely one of the highlights of my trip to Italy.